Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the courtyard of the Pentagon, where we're covering DoD Lab Day, an exposition of technology from each of the military services as well as from the Defense Department. And we have with us Tom Boucher, who is the program manager of one of the potentially most leap-ahead technologies here, which is the Navy's Railgun program. Sir, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vago. Yes, I do run the Railgun program for the Navy, and it's been my pleasure to be part of that program for the past 10 years when we've been making great progress of making higher and higher muzzle energies to achieve higher velocities with greater masses to bring railgun to the reality of the Navy of the future.
Amazing. You guys have the world record. Just before the interview, we were talking that the French were doing Institut Saint-Louis, where I visited about 20 years ago, were working on what was then the cutting edge of railgun technology, and they'd gotten it to about 8 megajoules. You guys have set the world record at 33 megajoules.
33.7 megajoules about 6 years ago we did that.
And so what I want to ask you is, railguns are always seen as sort of a technology that's going to be very far in the future. It's a great science project. Bring us up to speed on where you guys are, what is the capability you're developing, and how you guys are making this methodical progress to get this to the field. And also, what are the advantages of having railguns on ships as opposed to conventional propellants?
I'd love to. So initially, we were focused on bore life for railguns, and we wanted to make sure that before the Navy made the big investment on railgun technology, that we could achieve a long bore life rails at the muzzle energies of interest. And we did that in the very first half of the program, where we walked up to the 32 megajoules, which we consider a relevant muzzle energy for Navy applications. Now, at the current phase of the program, we are all about making a real weapon out of that by achieving high firing rates, so specifically 10 rounds per minute at 32 megajoules. So we're developing the system to manage the thermal dynamics and the power requirements of it, and then firing the common hypervelocity projectile to come out of both the railguns and conventional guns. So this particular projectile is intended to be fired from a railgun to achieve the desired effects for the Navy.
So how far along are you in the process of sort of tackling methodically? You said bore life was an issue. Bore life is an issue for a conventional gun as well, where you have to replace liners on a regular basis. Where are you on that? Where are you on the power management? Because obviously you're having to store and discharge vast amounts of power and do it very, very quickly. Where are you on each of these axes, which is sort of the long poles, if you will consider, in the technological tent?
Sure. So if you have a high-performance gun that is pushing any projectile in excess of 1,500 meters per second, it has a tremendous effect on the bore. And conventional guns with high-performance powders, they will wear their barrels out in under 1,000 shot bore life. Our goal has always been and remains to have bore lives for railguns pushing 2,000 meters per second at 1,000 shots of bore life and higher. The interesting thing about a railgun is it's because we can vary the bore life, vary the velocity of the gun. By lowering the velocity, we can extend bore life for a great deal of time, and we're assessing the bounds of that right now under the current program.
And so, from your perspective, it may be possible, for example, to have, instead of a 2,000 meter per second, 1,500 meter per second, feet per second bullet, but by dropping that down from 2,000 to 1,500 or 1,200, I can then have 2,000 shots, for example.
Yes, sir. So for any given velocity that you fire a projectile, it is our intent that the railgun will have a longer bore life than a conventional gun. Likewise, for any given acceleration that the bullet has to withstand, a railgun will achieve a faster velocity than a conventional gun. The railgun is what the electromagnetic launch is what enables a bullet to realize its full potential to do gun-based defense.
Have you worked out yet what the shore side, ship side part of this equation would be in terms of replacing liners, having technology that, when we understand everything about a current gun mount, the current technology, current liners, current propellants, what are some of the things that the gunner's mates of the future, if you will, are going to have to know about this new weapon?
Oh, what a great question. Yes, sir. We, in fact, do assess all of those kinds of things. We call them the LTs, maintainability, the trainability, and For Railgun, we are trying to do everything that we can to understand that early on so that the sailor on board can have high confidence and does not have to do a lot of work to maintain it. Many things are the same, though. We're developing techniques to measure the wear inside the bore and do typical maintenance that one might do. But fortunately, there are many high-powered systems on board ships now in the form of radars and sonars that sailors already get training on how to do that, and the railguns will just simply be an extension of that.
And talk to us about the broader Navy enterprise that's on this, ONR, and what each one of the pieces of the Naval Research and Development Enterprise are contributing to this sort of force-wide effort.
Absolutely. So Railgun, under the ONR program, is using many of the warfare centers. Dahlgren is the primary location, but we also use the warfare center at Philadelphia and Carderock for much of our ship integration, power, and energy needs. We're also using the warfare center out of Port Hueneme to help us manage planning for future test ships and integration onto the combat system out at the White Sands Missile Range where the Desert Ship is located. All of those locations are contributing. There's a great deal of scientists at the Naval Research Lab where they have small-scale guns, where they do early prototyping of some of the high-risk materials and assessments of how those are able to perform. Yes, sir.
And how long do you think that we're going to have a railgun mounted on an operational warship that's on deployment?
So that's a great question. The Navy is interested in its earliest capabilities as possible. So the projectiles that were designed for railguns are going to go out to the fleet first, but they're going to be implemented in conventional guns to the 5-inch gun system. We expect to see that in the early 20s. I would expect that a railgun would soon follow because we're certainly making the technical progress to do that.
Sir, thanks very much and best of luck on the program, and hope to visit you either at Dahlgren, Carderock, or at your HQ.
We'd love to show off for you. Thank you.